Lesson number 5, An Introduction to Hexatonic Scales. Please visit the link in the description below to download a free PDF copy of this lesson so you can follow along. A hexatonic scale is simply a scale that uses 6 out of the 12 possible notes of the chromatic scale. You probably didn't realize it, but you probably actually know a couple of these scales already. One of the most common ones is the blues scale. Another one you may have played is the whole tone scale. Another less common one is the augmented scale. The last two I showed you, the whole tone and the augmented scale, can be described as being made up of 2 triads that don't share any common tones. For example, in the whole tone scale we have an augmented triad and then another augmented triad on top of that one a whole step away. So for a C whole tone scale, we have the C augmented triad with the D augmented triad, and if you combine those two together, you get all the notes of the whole tone scale. For the augmented scale, you can do exactly the same thing, except this time we're going to combine augmented chords that are only a half step away. So for C augmented scale, we can do a C augmented with a D augmented on top. This is a great way to begin constructing your own hexatonic scales. And I've been experimenting with this for a couple weeks, and one scale that I came up with that I really liked occurs when you combined a major chord and another major chord a half step apart. So for example, you could use C major with D flat major on top. And that gets you this scale. So one thing I like to do when working with a new scale that I'm not very familiar with is find some practical applications of that scale in standard progressions for the tunes that I'm working on. So the first thing we have to do is identify common chords that the scale will work over. So all these chords that I'm going to be talking about will be in relation to the D flat major over C triad. Outline it clearly in the free PDF that's available for download. So let's find a minor chord that this scale works really well over. One I think it works great over is B flat minor. You get the 9th, the 3rd, flat 5, natural 5, 6 or 13, and the 7th. So you get those 2 really important chord tones, the 3rd and the 7th. And then you get a little ambiguity between the 5th. You can play either a half diminished chord or you can play a natural 5. And I think it works well over both of them. And over the half diminished. Works a little better over the half diminished, but I think you could probably get away with it over the natural minor too. Okay? Let's find a dominant chord that it works over. One that I liked was over a C7 at the root, flat 9, 3, the 11th or the 4th, which isn't a great chord tone. But you also have the 5th, and then the sharp 5 or the flat 13. So as long as you use the F as only a passing note, all the rest of those chord tones work just great with the scale. And the last chord I'd like to find is a major chord that it works well over. One that I liked the sound of was D flat major. You get the 7th, the root, and you get a sharp 9. Then you get the 3rd, a sharp 11, 5. Like that sharp 9, sharp 11 sound over our major chords. It's something you hear much more in contemporary improvisation and in a lot of compositions people are writing now. Okay, so that's 3 chords that we'd find in any common standard that we'd be working on. One trouble I think people have with playing scales like hexatonic scales and pentatonic scales is that it's very hard not to play patternistically over common progressions. So in our next lesson, what I'm going to do is show you how to play over a 2-5-1 using the scale we just talked about, and I'm going to write out a melodic pattern that you can work on in all 12 keys.